Hey, stress busters. The Bible tells us that we are to be living sacrifices. But what exactly does that mean? How do you do that? And how can it help you with your stress and your joy levels? I'm going to share that with you today. In Romans 12:1, it says, "Beloved friends, what should be our proper response to God's marvelous mercies? I encourage you to surrender yourselves to God, to be his sacred, living sacrifices." This is what the Bible tells us that we should be. And you and I, we don't make sacrifices every day, right? Probably never at all. And so we don't really get the full concept of what this means. It's not quite the same as making the sacrifice of giving somebody else the last piece of pie. So as I started to practice what I'm going to share with you today, I just discovered as I presented myself to God daily as a living sacrifice that the weights just fell off of me and I entered into his presence. And of course, joy comes when we're in his presence. So I'm going to tell you about how the priest in the tabernacle or the temple would prepare a sacrifice. And remember that Jesus is our high priest today, according to Hebrews 4:14. And he is preparing us to become mature, manifested children of God through being a living sacrifice. So here's what it looks like. The priest would slit the animal's throat and drain its blood. I know some of this is going to sound a little gross, but stay with me. It's really good. It's going to help you. So what this tells us is to be a living sacrifice, we have to die to ourselves. As a living sacrifice, of course, we don't die. We don't literally slit our throats, but we die to ourself. The life that we now live is Jesus living through us. We're not supposed to have this do-it-yourself kind of life. Jesus said, you need to deny yourself, take up your cross daily, and follow me. When we lose our own life, we gain his. It's a wonderful exchange. And we're going to have to totally die to doing things our own way. We're going to have to do that daily. The next thing that the priest would do is he would cut the head off of the animal. And this tells us that as a living sacrifice, we're not the head. You remember the scripture where Jesus is the head of the church and we are the body. And this tells us that we are not in charge. And we need to be saying, like Jesus did, not my will, but yours be done. And we need to renounce our right to free will. It's this wonderful thing that God gave us, but it's almost like we say, thanks for the free will. I choose you, God, but now I'm handing back my free will. I want my will to be your will. You're saying, I renounce the right to the way that I usually would think, the things that I want to do, the church I want to go to, the job that I want to have, and even how I might think about another person. I no longer have that right to just do and think and say whatever I want. I'm not in charge. I'm not the head. I don't get to decide if someone deserves forgiveness. Then number 3, the priest would remove the skin from the animal. And the skin represents these defense mechanisms that we have learned over our lives. They're protective mechanisms that we've put up as a barrier. And so as a living sacrifice, we have to be vulnerable. We have to be transparent before God. We can't be trying to protect ourselves. We need to rely on God to live in his protection. And think about it, any protective or defensive mechanisms that we would come up with would fall short compared to anything that God has to offer us in the way of his armor of light, the armor of righteousness that he puts on us, the armor of his protection. So as a living sacrifice, it's time to let our ways go. Fourth, what the priest would do is he'd split the body completely open and he'd wash out all the inner parts. And so a living sacrifice says, God, everything I have, everything that I am, it belongs to you. I'm not hiding anything from you. I am split open. You can see everything. Clean it up, God. I'm yours. Clean me up, and you can have it all. Create in me a clean heart and wash me with your word. And then finally, the priest would take the animal and he'd cut off the legs. And of course, legs make us think about our walk. And so as a living sacrifice, we don't just walk any way, anywhere that we want to. We don't go our own way. Jesus said in John 5:19, I speak to you timeless truth. The Son is not able to do anything from himself or through my own initiative. I only do the works that I see the Father doing, for the Son does the same works as the Father. So this is how Jesus did his miracles. He saw what the Father was doing, and he walked the walk. He did the same thing that God was doing, and God was able to perform miracles, signs, and wonders through Jesus. And he wants to do that through you and through me today. But it's going to take us being Spirit-led, being a living sacrifice, not doing our own thing or going off in our own direction, but a daily surrender to what God is saying and what he wants to do. Starting each day with, God, what do you want to accomplish today through me? So I encourage you to spend some time with God each day, picturing these steps of a sacrifice and how you can be this living sacrifice. And what will happen over time is that God will reveal himself to you. And then he'll be able to work through you to do mighty things upon this earth. Your days are going to be filled with wonder and awe and joy as you humble yourself and become this living sacrifice. Psalm 43:4 says, Then I come closer to your very altar until I come before you, the God of my ecstatic joy. And of course, an altar is where we have a sacrifice, right? So each day, picture yourself becoming a living sacrifice, walking through each step. I'm on a mission to help Christians to not live in stress, worry, and fear, but to bust through that and to start reigning in life, seeing more victories in their life, more joy and peace. And I really want to see the fame of God's goodness spread throughout the whole world. So would you do me a favor? Would you share this video with other people that you know are having problems with stress, worry, fear, anxiety, depression, and that they need this word? And as a special thank you for you, I have a free gift for you down below. Until next time, I'm Donna Rickett, the Stress Buster Coach, helping you to develop a stronger spirit so you can have a more joyful life.